Hello Transformers, Autobots, and Decepticons. Welcome back to another video for Transformers Reactivate. Yes, once again, we are going to be talking about raiding, as it seems like a hot topic, and I feel like it would be the pinnacle of endgame content for the game when it launches. Now, today I'm going to be heavily discussing what Sanders dropped today on his stream. Now, please take this all with a grain of salt, just like how everything I have discussed must be as well, simply because a lot of this is verbal, and I have said it time and time again. Take it with a grain of salt, guys. Do not take everything as fact until proven otherwise. Now, the reason why I am more inclined to believe Sanders is because he has a good track record with his information, and he has a couple connections from the past. On top of that, he has briefly played the 2018 build of Transformers Impact, while I have seen the 2020 build of Transformers Rise/Reactivate. Now, keep in mind all of this is subject to change, because as soon as you hand it over to another developer, you just don't know what could happen with the game. So just keep that in mind. But there's a lot of information that you know carried over. Everything from Certain Affinity and when Certain Affinity and Splash Damage worked together in 2020 carried over to Splash Damage's game. So before we get started, please, of course, take some time, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, ring that notification bell on your way out to know when my next video goes live. I also wanted to shout out Sanders in the info in the description down below. So be sure to check out his video. It's got a lot of great stuff too. Even if it is older information, it gives us more insight into what the game could potentially be like or what it was like in the past. So also, please take some time and also join the conversation in the Transformers Re-Energized community Discord. We have one of the biggest Transformers gaming Discords in the world, and we would love to have you guys join in the excitement for this highly anticipated game, Transformers Reactivate. Okay, so we have talked about raiding in the past, but we've never talked about how many players there were actually allowed to be in these raid battles. Sanders shared today that there was 4 to 6 players in these raid boss battles that we would be allowed to potentially play against in Transformers Reactivate. Now, keep in mind, this was back in 2018 for this build, or when the raid was available, and I could see this still exist in Splash Damage's game as well. But until we, as Transformers fans, jump into Transformers Reactivate on Unreal Engine 5.4, we won't know what kind of endgame content actually exists. We know there's many different game modes or various things that they've trickled or tried to play with, and things that I have even seen that I haven't even shared with you guys yet. Personally, considering Splash Damage is big into multiplayer games, I would love to see them up that number to at least maybe 4 to 8 player raids. I think that would be really cool. I feel like this would be a good dynamic, being able to fight bosses with up to 8 players. Not only it would allow Splash Damage to up the difficulty on some of these raid bosses by having more players. It may take the game to a more complex level, but I feel like this would be a welcome change in my mind. The only issue with having more players would be, of course, the performance issues. Having more players, more things rendering all at the same time makes sense. But beyond that, I think it would be absolutely perfect. Certain Affinity created many vertical slices and test maps back in 2018 for zones, such as the Megatron battle. Previously, we mentioned that there was the Megatron boss battle in a test map that Sanders had mentioned. Now we have information regarding a raid boss that was the Quintessence. Now, the only reason why I currently believe this is real is because there are things that I have seen that might hint towards multiple phases of a boss. On top of that, yes, debuffs exist in Transformers Reactivate. So depending on what abilities you have or the enemies has, it can inflict debuffs on either or party. So according to Sanders, the Quintessence are the first massive raid boss. This boss will have 3 or more phases. You might ask, Robo, what do you mean by phases? Well, like any good MMO or JRPG, a phase would mean a specific part in that raid boss battle. So, for example, in the beginning, phase 1, the Quintessence summoned the Sharkticons. You would not encounter the Sharkticons anywhere else, as it is exclusive to this raid boss. In phase 2, the quintessence would drop down from the ceiling and traverse the arena floor. During this phase, you will start to see a lot of line AoE and circle AoEs throughout the room. Each quintessent face has a specific attack pattern and their own set of debuffs to fire off at the players, being you. It all depends on which head is active at that time. During the whole process, Sharkticons are still spawning. As each phase goes on and on, you will see phase 1, phase 2, and then you will see all of those in phase 3. As you go on, things get harder and harder. By the time you damage it enough, it enters into phase 3. During this phase, the tentacles from the quintessence will start to trap players. You will be unable to shoot if you are trapped. Only the players on the ground can free you. The soft and rage mechanic is if you neglect to free your allies from the quintessence, then the raid will wipe. Now, when I use the terminology soft or hard and rage, I am referring to when a boss has a mechanic that you cannot ignore. Otherwise, you will lose the fight and have to start over from the beginning. Raiding is broken up into 3 different difficulties. Depending on which one you select will determine what kind of loot you will receive and how hard the raid will become. There is normal mode, there is hard mode, and then Elite Guard. Elite Guard is most likely the equivalent to Savage in Final Fantasy XIV. The next part is a major spoiler, so it also lines up with a lot of the information that I've shared in the past. So if you don't want to be spoiled about this part, please pause the video and then just come back later. Now, the next big thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the story piece that Sanders brought up in his live stream, which is Unicron is actually going from planet to planet, destroying planets, and one of them was where the quintessence resided apparently during the 2018 build of Transformers Impact/Rise/Reactivate. So that is the key information that was very surprising to me, and like we've said over many videos. And one thing right from the get-go, when I first started to hear information regarding the changeover from certain affinity to splash damage, was that when certain affinity was working on the game, Unicron was a thing, and Unicron was planned, however, not at first. And the only thing that I want to thought process just take away from this raiding side of things is the quintessent raid. And one thing, I'm not saying Sanders is wrong, but at the same time, I want to say that hearing the quintessence being developed so early on surprises me, just because why would you create a raid and not have it way down the line for like seasonal content or the post main storyline, right? Why would you not put it down the line? And maybe that was the case for the Impact game. However, in the build that I have seen, it actually doesn't have any of that content, any of that rating side of things, and I haven't seen, at least not yet, 4 to 6 players. So there are certain things that you just need to take with a grain of salt, but it's a good possibility that that content carried over to splash damage. Maybe it's not in the version I've seen. However, maybe it was taken out and rehashed or remade in a sense, and it just didn't make it into this version of the build because they remade everything. It's a little confusing why it didn't make it into the final build before it went to splash damage. However, at the same time, just hearing some of the things while they were developing at splash damage of them updating the original designs from certain affinity and going based off of the original zones and buildings and whatnot that were actually made, and just simply updating them, putting more foliage or different greenery on buildings to make it look more run down, similar to The Last of Us, and things like that, just makes it sound that much more interesting. The possibility of Unicron coming even, and the possibility of him eventually coming to Earth, or maybe we go off-world and we have to fight Unicron, or we go back to Cybertron at some point in time by using a ground bridge or a space bridge, which has been hinted towards in the build that I have seen, is very interesting to me, and I feel like that's an awesome thing. And now I really want to talk about really quickly about Transformers 1 and how exciting that was to see. I'm not crazy on the Megatron voice, but all the other voice actors, they seem all right for me. I'm I'm gonna give it a chance, and I'm looking forward to it when the movie actually does come out. However, some people say that they are excited to see Transformers 1 be part of Transformers Reactivate, and personally for me, I feel like the art style just does not work. However, we have seen in previous games where skins from various different eras like G1 entered into like Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, for example. But here's the thing, here's the catch, is that those designs were updated in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen to not look so much boxy G1, to be more updated, but have the color scheme of G1. And there's certain things over time, even if you look at Transformers War of Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, while they were based on G1, there's different updates to those characters. They didn't make them look all boxy like the original G1 TV show or comics and things like that. And skin wise, I really don't feel like Transformers 1 would fit very well with Transformers Reactivate. However, it would be good seasonal content to have if they decided to go that route. Now, mind you, I just don't think it would work personally for me. I don't think those skins or those designs from Transformers 1 would look all that great in Transformers Reactivate because they're two separate things. They're not G1, but it's like a modern G1, I guess, with Transformers 1. And then you have Transformers Reactivate, which is based on G1, but also it looks so much more updated and it's its own thing. So all I'm trying to say is that there's a good possibility that maybe Hasbro will try to put Transformers 1 in Transformers Reactivate, but also at the same time, it would look out of place. That's my personal opinion, and I really don't think that Transformers 1 should be in Transformers Reactivate because you do not want to get confused with Transformers Reactivate and Transformers 1. I know they're two different titles, but at the same time, that's just my thought process and my personal opinion. However, there are various different skins from different eras, and you see Knockout from Transformers Prime. You see Powerglide. You see all these different characters. However, they've taken on a more modern fashion. You see Slipstream, that has taken on a more modern fashion. You see Windblade and various different characters over time that have taken on different skins and different designs, and they look so much better than their original counterpart. And that's all I'm trying to say, and I hope you guys take on that information and just take it with a grain of salt. You don't know what's going to happen with Splash Damage's version of the game. It has definitely been a dry season, that's for sure, with Transformers Reactivate, whether it be leaks or any new information. Even Splash Damage is keeping us absolutely in the dark. Their support page got updated from the Transformers Reactivate banner to this generic one with a bunch of weapons. I did notice the Batarang in it, so obviously from Batman Arkham Origins, and there's other weapons from various different games that are in there that I found very interesting. So it's very cool to see, but also at the same time, I am super excited to see what Splash Damage is going to do and what their future is planned and when the marketing is going to begin. My personal thoughts is Summer Games Festival. I'm going to say it just like I did with the last, with the Game Awards, is that it would be a massive missed opportunity if they did not even hint towards, or if they did not even lead up to Summer Games Festival and announcing that, yes, we're going to be there. Go check it out. There's something very exciting there, and I'm sure trailer 2 is going to be there. That's just my personal thoughts. Don't take it as facts. Don't take it as, yes, it's going to happen. That's just my excitement, and I personally think that it would be a massive missed opportunity, especially if they are going to release the game this year. I've seen 2024 listed for the game, and I've seen it across different areas, and I feel like it's got to be this year. If not, I just don't know what's going on. I really don't know what to say. It's a very confusing curveball as to why things didn't work out in certain places, but you saw the support page go up in March regardless, and then you just don't hear about it for a while, even from various other sources. So it's kind of a curveball as to like something's gonna happen, but then it doesn't happen, and then it's a confusing thing for myself to try and relay to you guys and to try and get the information out to you guys as to what's going to happen. Is it going to happen here? Is it going to happen there? That sort of thing. And it's starting to become a guessing game. So until that actually happens, We won't know for sure, and I don't want to keep you guys guessing or have something come out that sounds false and not end up happening. So guys, I'm gonna stay quiet for a little bit, but I'm still gonna shoot videos off to you guys, and just let's get hyped for Transformers Reactivate. I'm gonna share some more content with you guys, maybe share some more character renders as we get closer and closer. I think it's a good time to do it, and we'll see where that goes. But anyway, we'll decide on what we decide to release and whatnot, and beyond that, I hope you guys all stick close and look forward to future videos when we get going with Transformers Reactivate. This is your #1 stop shop for all things Transformers Reactivate, gameplay, guides, news, you name it, when we get going on launch. This is RoboGamer1HD signing off. See you all on the battlefield.
Going to a long, 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 long,